Welcome back to another episode of Dentistry's Growing with Grace podcast. Join Grace and her guest of the week as they discuss lessons learned in the industry and explore unique insights into ethical growth. Hello and welcome back to Dentistry's Growing with Grace. I have a very special guest with me today, Jodie Pearson. Jodie, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Grace. It's a pleasure.
I am very excited about today's topic because it is a daily personal pain point for me when I see excellent metrics and phone calls and click-throughs from all of the hard work that we do in marketing. And then, the doctors sometimes don't see the results the way that we're expecting them to. And I think a lot of times it boils down to those front office conversations and conversion ability. So we're going to be tackling that today. So Jodie, before we jump into these questions and these different problems that people have around conversion, tell our audience a little bit about your background and your years in dentistry so that they know they're talking to someone who is fully qualified to talk on this subject matter.
Right. Well, I've been in the industry over 30 years and started in '86. And the offices that I worked in had their own policies and so forth. So one of the things that I feel qualifies me for this particular conversation on conversion is the fact that I worked in an office for 15 years, that we were a recipient of a marketing company, and we were converting. And there's a certain style to it. There's a certain thing that we need to know about the differences of the callers that come into the office. And so we applied certain verbal skills and things that just really help the patient to relax and just step through the door. We've got to get them to walk in. If we can't get them to get in the car and come on over, well, then all the marketing dollars are for naught. So we definitely want to have the right person on the bus who's taking the calls. Grace, you can spend all kinds of money on marketing, but we also want to have champions at the front office who know how to encourage that person to take the next step. And I've done it for many, many years, and it's fun. The method that I'm going to talk about was fun for me, and because it was successful. So
that's awesome. So when you're looking at this, and I've seen this happen, not all practices need this training if they've already received it and if they have a process that's really working for them. One of the things that I've told a lot of doctors, and I've been shut down instantly, is you need to be recording these calls and these conversations, and you need to have the ability to check up. Even if your team received this training years ago, they may not still be as sharp with that particular focus right now. So what's your opinion on that? And I know I'm going totally off script here.
No, it's fine, and I love it. And the thing is that when I said you have to have a champion or the right people on the bus, that's what it boils down to. Because if you have a team member that wants to learn and wants to move forward and wants to see what worked and what didn't work, they're going to love to hear those recordings. They're going to want to listen to them themselves and tweak it, and they'll be open to it. But then you're going to have the type of person that feels nervous. They're going to feel, and they're going to feel maybe if they know they're being recorded, they're not going to perform like they should. But that's all just a matter of building confidence in that employee and just assuring them, and picking out all the right things that they do and say, look what you did here, look what happened here, and really help that individual to become all they can be in that role. Because you do need to have, as is any position in the office, you do need to have your champions, definitely.
Absolutely. And I would even challenge people and say, if you've got someone in that role, I don't care if it's your wife or your daughter or your longtime friend, or you don't know what you would do with that person, so you don't want to challenge them, then you've got a deeper problem there. Everyone on a team in my opinion, needs to be seeking continual growth and improvement, even if they're already great. So that's the first thing, is make sure your team is open to improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this problem when people call the office, especially when we start marketing, at Identity Dental Marketing, when we start marketing people who have never done marketing before and they're used to only bringing in patients through word of mouth.
Right.
And now they're generating new patient inquiries through Google, through Facebook, through these other sources. Talk to me about what's different and why does that change how you have to handle those new patient calls?
I would love to. It's a whole nother ball game when you're talking to a word of mouth referral. Usually they're ready to schedule, first of all. Why? Because my mom referred me to you. She's already told me all about you. So that conversation is kind of happy, and it's oh, hey, we love your mom. I'm so glad you're coming. And
it's a layup.
It is. It's a layup. Well said. And a slam dunk kind of, So it's really a fast and easy phone call normally. But the media generated referral, if you don't mind me calling it that, because no matter where they're coming from outside of a word of mouth, we'll call it some sort of media. Number one, they probably don't have a dentist, or if they do, they've had a bad experience, and likely the pain involved maybe has affected them. So you're dealing with a very emotional type of a situation. These people are normally procrastinators. So they have put it off and put it off. They've been talking themselves out of it, right? Because their memory of the fear is taking over. So when they call, usually the first thing that they're going to do is ask for a price. And this is one of the things that I've heard the most pushback on from clients that I've spoken with who've said, well, we bought your service, but they're just shopping around. We're not really getting any patients. So that's
these aren't good patients.
These are not good referrals, right? They're not good, right? So we want to think of them just as we think of ourselves. We want to put ourselves in the caller's shoes. And if it's okay with you, Grace, I'd like to tell a really quick story about me and my daughter.
Yeah.
And I was shopping for Taekwondo. I thought, oh, hey, I heard that will help my daughter with discipline and focus. And I felt like that would be good for her. So first of all, I procrastinated. Oh, I don't have time. So finally, I'm driving down the street and I pull in. I already know where these two locations are that I want to check out. Two. So I pull in on an impulse. Right? It's not really that planned. I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to call. I'm just going to go in. So I go in, and the first thing I say was, hey, I just, wanted to know what you guys charge for the Taekwondo. Okay. Is that a normal question? How much is it? It is very normal, no matter what kind of a service you're going to buy.
It's very normal for that to be the first thing you think of to ask, even though it's not your only concern.
That's well said. Well said. There's all these things underneath it, but that's really kind of what we know how to start the conversation. So the first business that I walked into said, showed me a flyer, put a flyer on the counter and said, well, here's our schedule of classes. These are the prices. We pick up your child after school. If you need us to, bring her in. She can do her homework in the back room until the time of her class, and then you can pick her up when you get off work. Oh, that sounds pretty good. Thank you. So I took the flyer with me and I go, great, I'm going to go check out this other place. Okay. So there was really nothing wrong with what they did or how they did it. The guy was very nice, very, informative, answered my questions, but it didn't stop me from shopping, right? That's the point. So I go around the corner and I walk into this other Taekwondo company and I ask the same exact question. Hey, I just wanted to know what you charge for Taekwondo. And the guy says, well, let me ask you a question. Is it for your little girl? Yeah, she was with me. He goes, oh, you want to take Taekwondo? She goes, no. Yeah, I know. So he says, I tell you what's your name? She said, Kelsey. Why don't you go watch the class for a minute and I'll talk to your mom, okay? Is that okay? Already, I'm like, what's going on here? What's going to happen? So he sits me down at his desk and says, why do you want your daughter to take Taekwondo? And I said, this is where I want to be. It was just a whole different feeling. I thought, well, this guy's really interested in the child.
And he didn't even answer your question, did he?
No, he did not. He never mentioned price. He asked me questions first. He wants to get to know me and my situation first. Now, the price is probably the same for everybody, but and he could have.
There's in sales, in any sort of sales role, and I know dental people cringe whenever I say sales, but I don't care. I mean, it's part of what we're running. We're operating a business, and part of this requires the same skills you would use in sales. And when I say sales, I mean serving people ethically and solving problems. I mean it in a good way. But in sales, you are supposed to build value before you drop a price. Imagine if a patient walked in and you said, just glancing at their mouth, oh, that's going to cost like 30 grand. That's not going to get you to case acceptance. It's the same thing when that patient calls in on the phone. And sometimes I do want to speak to something you said previously about patients who come in through media, whether that's social media or traditional media, or even through word of mouth, whatever it may be. The marketing message that you put out can attract different types of patients with different concerns. A lot of times when people, in my opinion, put out very price-related offers, they get patients that come in with a lot of price-related questions as a concern. And so that's why when you're marketing your practice, you really need to take a step back and first define your ideal new patient and what are they looking for, what do they value, and all of those things need to be worked into the marketing message so that you're attracting the right kind of patient for you that has the same values as you. That's not to say you never ever make an offer and you never ever, so Jodie, tell me a little bit about what do you recommend that people can offer in a way that's not totally destroying the perception of our profession, but that can help the front office team to kind of have something in their back pocket to just get people to walk through the door.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Well, the first thing that you said, Grace, is about how you want to attract the kind of patient that has certain values that will be a good fit to the family, your patient family base. I've not ever really thought about that as it relates to this topic, and the reason is because I don't care who's calling, this is what I'm going to do. And that's being open-minded to knowing the possibility of no matter what type of a person it is or what values they have or whatnot, I'm still going to get to that person by using certain sentences that I think are going to, that will help to convince them to walk in. So here's how
I try to convert anyone that I think is going to be a good client for my business. And I think our clients do the same. You can definitely tell when someone calls and they only care about money.
Yes.
That's a little different than if they lead with, or if at some point they ask, what's this going to cost? There's a difference between that. And I think sometimes the front office, instead of kind of looking for an opportunity to see how this person could fit into the practice, we kind of go, uh-oh, they brought up price, they're a shopper, bye.
Right. And they aren't prepared and they don't know how to handle that. If you do give out a price, even a price range, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot most of the time. I'm not going to say every time, but what we want to do is we want to ask questions, just like the Taekwondo guy did to me. He said, "Oh, is this your daughter? Do you want to take Taekwondo? Why does she want to?" He started inquiring. So this is what we're going to do. So Grace, you're calling me and you're saying, "Oh, I want to make an appointment." Okay, when was your last visit? That's how you lead in, because you don't want to say, or you don't want to indicate that you don't know the patient if it's already a patient of record. And what will you be coming in for? Well, I just want to know how much you charge for a crown. Oh, okay, that's a great question. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? They're going to say no, go ahead, because what that leads them to think is that after they answer the question, I'm going to give them a price. Okay, I'm going to give them something, but it's not a price. So then I'll say, so Grace, tell me a little bit about your tooth. Is it keeping you up at night? If you say yes, I'm going to say, oh, it is. Those are the sounds and the tone that I use. Oh, well, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, I know the doctor would be very concerned about that. Now, if the patient says no, that no, it's not keeping me up at night. Is it sensitive to hot and cold? If all the answers are no, oh, not yet. Okay, okay. Why do you think you need a crown? Right? Okay. Well, I tell you what, I know that the doctor's going to be very concerned about what the symptoms that you've described to me. And what I'd like to do is to invite you in for a no charge evaluation. We're not going to do anything without your permission. You'll have a chance to come in. You'll see our office. You'll get to meet all of us. And it'll be like a welcome visit. But we're going to pay particular attention to that area that you're concerned about. So we do have some time at 10 this morning or at 2 this afternoon. Which time would you like? And then the office should always have times for emergencies, right? Everybody does. You want to get they're an impulse buyer, remember. And remember, they've probably been procrastinating. So you have to really be able to accommodate them. Same or next day at the moment.
I want to speak to this because anyone who's listening or anyone who's watching, you need to save this recording. And the reason is because you're going to go back to your team and you're going to try to repeat what Jodie did, and something might be lost in translation. I want your team to hear the sound effects. Most of what we communicate is nonverbal, which is sounds, pauses, tone of voice. There's a lot of communication that happens beyond the words that we say. Jodie could have said, "Ooh, ouch, just a little bit wrong," and they could have felt judged. Instead of the compassion that she is showing them, they could have felt judged. And so you need someone who is able to connect with people, who has the right personality profile.
Genuine.
And who is genuine.
Yes.
I mean, we all know that person in our life. I can think of a person, I won't say her name, that is in my life that is genuine and cares. But when she communicates, those emotions don't match what she actually feels. And so if she has every intention in the world of doing this right, it doesn't matter, because this isn't what's for her. So making sure you have the right person in this role, and really going back to that implementation piece, because Jodie could give you every word to say in a free script right now. And I'll tell you right now that if Jodie's not there listening to the calls on occasion and giving that feedback and making sure that we're scoring at a certain score for each one of these calls, then it will slip. Because what happens, we're on the phone with a new patient, we forget that that's a priority, and then something else comes up, and it's very difficult to be focused in that moment. Jodie, how often do you go into an office and do you find that they're understaffed in the front and they don't even have the ability to give these calls the attention that they deserve?
Absolutely. It's a very high number of offices that do. It's just a matter of letting somebody in to just kind of help you out. And I like to ask the team, are you happy with your conversion? Are you, Grace? Are you happy? Does it feel good when you get a new patient call or something like that? Well, how about we work on that? I want to tell you something. I had a lot of fun with it. So that's what's going to happen here too.
And I've seen situations where the person handling the new patient calls doesn't actually want more new patients because they feel overworked.
Right.
And maybe it's not intentional or malicious, but if that's how you feel when you answer the phone, are you really going to do everything you can to get that person in?
The no charge evaluation eliminates so much time for that call. It's very, just like I did it in, I don't know, a minute and a half.
Oh, not even, yeah.
Always going to go that way, but your odds for success can go through the roof. And you'll feel comfortable knowing that, oh, I know exactly how to handle this. I know how to, even if they say, well, I'm just calling to get a price for a cleaning. How much do you charge for a cleaning? Well, what do I say to that? I'll say, oh, that's a good question. How long has it been since you've had your teeth cleaned? Oh my God, it's been 5 years. Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you this. Are your gums bleeding? Do you have any bleeding when you brush your teeth? Or do you have any, Well, yeah, that's why I'm calling. Okay. Well, there are a lot of different types, a lot of different ways to handle that situation. So what I'd like to do, watch, I'm jumping right into the offer. So you acknowledge, you find out, you acknowledge what they told you, and then you offer to fix it somehow. So Grace, you know what? I'd really like you to come in, and I know the doctor will have a look at exactly what you're concerned about. We're not going to do anything without your permission. See, this is where you get the person to feel comfortable. Maybe it'll be okay if I go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
My sister Susie, her family switched to an HMO, which is, I don't have anything against HMO, but it just so happened that she was going to my office with her family of 5. And they went to this dentist, and Grace, she called me one night crying on the phone. She had a crown prep and she was crying. She said, Jodie, I can't go back there. I can't. They hurt me. And the doctor said, well, obviously you're not ready for this. I mean, she said it was horrible. The kid in the next seat, in the operatory next to me, he was like struggling, and I could see his feet moving. He was making noises. She's like, I can't go back. So, I mean, I have to rescue her. And that's what we're doing. We're kind of rescuing people that have had a bad experience, and we're going to bring them in and give them a new dental home where
Yep.
they can feel like they're a part of it and they feel comfortable coming back. So, okay, this is what I did. Now, I don't recommend this necessarily, but I said, okay, Susie, she already paid for her portion, right? I said, I'm going to go with you to the deliver appointment. So I did. I went in the room with her. The assistant brought the crown in, and I said, is that the crown? And she said, yes. I picked up the bag and I said, let's go. And I took the crown with me and brought her to my office. And the assistant ran down the hall. She goes, doctor, she took the crown.
Oh my goodness.
Good. I had to save her. I had to.
It's so funny.
And I was able to bring her to my office. And here's the thing, Grace, with people that are fearful, they don't want to go deal with it. They don't want to have that emotion. They don't want to have pain. So I brought her to my office. Before she stepped into the operatory, she started to cry.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get these people over that. So the first evaluation can really be the ticket. So that visit actually has a process to it.
And whether our listeners are looking to attract the fearful patient, some of them are going to be in areas where they have a very well-educated population. So that piece of it may not be 100% what they're dealing with, but everything you said about the verbal skills still applies. I just want to say, even if you're not dealing with a fearful or a population of people who have neglected their oral health, it still applies. I want to ask you this with insurance, because a lot of people call, and just like that money question is the first thing they think of. A lot of them go right to, well, do you accept my insurance? Do you take my insurance? There's a lot in the industry of disagreement between whether you say just no or whether you say other things like we'll evaluate this. And so talk me through how I would handle that as a front office person. Patient calls and says, well, do you accept my insurance?
Right. I would give the office the option to either ask about insurance if they want to, or they don't have to ask about insurance. That's one thing that I wanted to say. But if the patient says, do you accept my insurance? My answer was always, we accept any insurance that allows you freedom to choose what office you'd like to go to. So is that tooth keeping you up at night?
So you would say, for if you're an out-of-network provider, that we accept any insurance that allows you the option to choose.
Yes.
And then they would say something like, okay, but Delta, do you take Delta? Does Delta allow me to choose?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you take their insurance, and then when they come in, when they're in there for that free consultation, I'd imagine you'd have to carve out some time to talk to them specifically about their benefits and how their benefits work. Or
you can't, it's not really a part of that process. So let me just share what happens. So the patient comes in. Naturally, you do all the wonderful things and introducing yourself. And in the old days, we would shake hands and so forth, make sure they're comfortable. And once they come into the operatory, what happens is the doctor comes in. Okay, I want to introduce the doctor. So doctor, this is Mr. Jones. He's, complaining about having sensitivity. This can be said by the assistant or the front desk. And Mr. Jones, this is Dr. Smith. He's going to take excellent care of you. So Dr. Smith puts one glove on, one mirror explorer, and he says, well, I understand that you're having some sensitivity. Tell me a little bit about that. It's very cursory. It shouldn't, this exam with the doctor should take less than 10 minutes. So, and he can do it while another patient is being anesthetized for a crown prep in the other room. So he comes in while so that's where you can book it. Book it right there, equal to the patient that's having injection. And then come on in, and then he's going to say, well, let me check it out for you. So he's going to look around the mouth, and he's going to say, okay, oh yeah, I can see why you're concerned about that area. I can see that. But I'm also, I see some other areas that I'm concerned about. And most of the time that's going to happen because remember, the media generated referral probably doesn't have a dentist, or it's been a long time, they've been procrastinating. So these are very possible scenarios. Mm-hmm. And so with your permission, Mr. Jones, I really would like to take a full set of pictures. Would that be okay with you? And what's the patient gonna say? Well, how much is that gonna cost, right? That's a great question. Let me go get Jodie. She'll come in and she'll explain.
Or they might assume that it's free because it's a free consult, and they might just say, sure, yes. So that communication has to be there, in my opinion.
Jodie has to come in anyway. And this is part of the string of champions that handle this situation. So the doctor, the assistant, everybody knows, I don't care what treatment you're having, if it changes, you have to send in.
So you're not having the insurance, you're having the insurance conversation with them when you're having any sort of case presentation. You're talking about what's needed, whether it's one thing or whether it's you go into a more comprehensive thing, but really you're recommending that they start with something small.
Yes.
The diagnostic piece.
Right. And in this scenario, when I come in and ask about, inform them about the FMX, I say, Mr. Jones, I'm so glad you were able to get here today. And I know the doctor is going to, do the best for you. We just love him. So I understand that he wants to take a full set of pictures, and I wanted to let you know that that's $125, and we'd like to know if you can take care of that today. And now, because you've answered that question, you're going to find out which way it's going to go. Right. They're going to say, I don't have my checkbook. Can I pay later? Or no, I can't afford that. Okay. Or what about my insurance? Great. Let me have a look at your insurance. Now that could have already been done. So there are different scenarios, and I don't want to get into all that right now, but it's so simple. You just pick and choose which way you want to go. In this case, Mr. Jones says, no, I don't have the money. Okay.
So the new patient calls, they ask about insurance. You let them know you accept all insurances. Whether or not you're in network, that's going to be a conversation when you sit down and you do a case presentation.
Not going to be all insurances, because some are HMO. So I'm going to be very specific. I'm going to say,
okay,
accept any insurance that allows you freedom to choose what
okay
go to.
Okay. And then, so the main goal, and what I love about what you teach and your process that you teach and what you're explaining here, is that the person handling these phone calls has one goal. You get them in.
Yep.
The person handling the phone call gets them in.
Yes.
And has a very easy tool to reference to get them in. And you call it a no charge, right?
No charge evaluation.
No charge evaluation. And it doesn't take a lot of time, so it's not a huge burden on the practice. And once they meet you, you have the ability to woo them. And there are these steps that you follow to increase conversion all the way from the initial contact to making them a patient for life, if they're a patient that's going to fit the practice. But
so let's say that the person lets us take an FMX, or let's say they don't. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the picture, Grace, and we're not going to charge for it. I'm just not going to charge. But that way the doctor can address it, chances are follow through may not be that great for that person. We don't know. But if they have insurance, definitely we can go down that road. And then the patient is warmed up to have an FMX at a later point. Or we can even talk about insurance if they have it and say, well, you know, we're going to estimate that your insurance will cover. So they're all different things to do. But the goal in the back is to get the FMX. Once you get the FMX, I really feel like you now have a patient of record, because look, I got in the car, I came to your office, I filled out the forms, I sat in your chair, I got an FMX. Why would I start over?
And what I want to mention too is psychologically, once people have visited your practice about 4 times, they're going to be a patient for life unless you really mess it up. And there's research to back up this 4-visit thing. And so getting them in for any sort of evaluation, you've already got 1. And if they come back for any small treatment, you've got 2. And I think what happens a lot of times is the dentists don't give themselves the time, or they don't leverage the resources like Jodie to get someone in there to help streamline this process. They just go, my marketing's not working. Right. And they go immediately to that marketing piece. But there's marketing in everything that you do. And the marketing doesn't end when the patient makes the phone call. It's actually just starting. That's a very beginning piece of that relationship. And so I think we've shared so much value today already. Talk to me, Jodie, about what you're up to. How can a practice that really says, you know what, we can benefit from this? Because I know my clients and my following that has fully listened to this conversation, they're probably going, yeah, I could do that. Maybe I'll do it in a month or 2 when I have more time or money. Let's talk about the urgency of this and how they can get in contact with you.
Well, the first thing I think is just to take that step to give me a call and tell me what your concerns are. This is not a long conversation.
Is this a no charge evaluation?
Yes, it'll be a no charge evaluation.
Okay, great.
Excellent, excellent. So, for sure, we can find out what's going on. We can find out, you know, if there's somebody in the office that loves doing this sort of thing, or if you want to learn to love it, or, you know, we'll feel that out. Who's the champion? Who wants to be the champion? Because we definitely need to get the right people on the bus. That's really important. Not everybody's great at that. There were certain things in the office that I just, you know, let her do it. She's so good at that, right? So we got to put people in the right place. But yeah, definitely just give me a call and we can talk it through and we can make a plan together and go from there.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Jodie. And how can people get in touch with you?
Well, my number is 562-619-8825. That's my cell phone, and that's really the best way to get a hold of me. And then we can talk about other ways to communicate after that.
That sounds great.
I'll give you my email address. It's Jodie, Jodie, Bill, Bill, @yahoo.com.
Awesome.
And I'm with DIY Consulting, and so we're happy to help you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And to all of our listeners and all of our viewers, thank you so much for being a part of Dentistry's Growing with Grace. If you feel you have a topic that is going to help to educate your peers and help to elevate the profession, please reach out to me, grace@identitydental.com. And if you're looking for ways to grow your practice, I too offer a complimentary marketing planning session. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you, Jodie.
Thank you, Grace. Have a good day.
You too.